In the first video, Where Do Good Ideas Come From?, the narrator, Steven Johnson, discussed the slow hunch pattern of ideas. He pulled out the points of taking time to form ideas, collision of ideas, and connectivity expanding our reach for ideas. Good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches, he says. Our modern-day society has critiqued the internet to be ruining our minds, and while that can be true on some levels, the internet has also allowed those with small ideas to reach out to others wondering the same thing and find their missing piece, as Johnson called it. More web development means less sophisticated thought, but it also means a historic increase of connectivity. Today, we can borrow and build off of each other. It doesn't have to be one person sitting alone in a dark room. The surprising truth about what motivates us went against much of what we've come to believe. The narrator, Dan Pink, discusses the backwards behavioral physics in motivation. First and foremost, not everything we think is wrong. Rewards and bonuses still work as expected. Greater reward equals greater skill and output, with tasks involving only mechanical skills, however. The trouble comes with cognitive skills, even rudimentary ones. Through many tests throughout the world, it has been found that creative and critical thinking problems don't respond as well to greater and greater rewards. On 3 levels, 1 and 2 perform the same as each other, but the third perform less than either of the other groups. 3 factors were identified within the video that will lead groups to better performances and personal satisfaction: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Within each of these, people will find their own reasons to improve performance. In autonomy, they have self-direction. They can choose where to be productive, making it more interesting for the individual. In mastery, humans have an innate need to better themselves at things. We volunteer and do mass amounts of work for free just so we can feel better about ourselves and our work. Whether it's a hobby or community group, we push ourselves. In purpose, we again push ourselves, but to better the world this time. We grow up in a society where you should go to school, get a job, find a spouse, and have kids. Many still follow that path, and many of those look for a job that gives them a sense of purpose. It goes along with autonomy. We do better at things that interest us. If person A has no interest in math, they look for a job that requires very little math skill, but rather a creative thinking field, while person B may love math and go into a job that involves a lot of calculations and number solving. In all 3 motivators, however, when you pay people enough to not have to worry about a financial motivation, they will perform better because of their interests. The final video was Triumph of the Nerd. Specifically, this episode focused on the early development of computers. Computers had a long road of development, from the large ones that would have dedicated rooms to the coding languages from zeros and ones to English-based translations. Apple and Microsoft being some of the first brands to throw something on the market, the earliest developments were nothing like the computers we know and rely on today. They weren't even the blocky screen with chunky clear keyboards yet. The very first personal computer on the market was the Altair 8800. It functions more as a calculator than a modern-day computer, but the Altair was still huge for its time. Following the Altair was the first Apple computer. There wasn't much to it, but it had enough sales to prove a market for it, motivating the developers further than unhappy. They developed Apple II then, and this was one of the first computers to have a monitor that could show you exactly what you were typing in, whether it be coding, calculations, or eventually spreadsheets. A large motivation with Apple II was making it accessible and practical to a wider range of individuals. To do so, Apple took the route of creating digital spreadsheets that would help crunch the numbers for you. This was a huge hit, quite clearly, and the business took off from there, with dozens of companies working on their own adjacent technology. Previously mentioned was the development of computer language. Programming and computer coding started out as ones and zeros, but Grace Hopper believed that programming could be simplified and English-based. She went out and helped develop Flowmatic, which later influenced and arrived the still-used compiler, COBOL. These were English-based programming languages that would allow the computer to convert English terms into machine code that was understood by the computer. This revolutionized the computer world even before computers were a